Hillel, maybe Hillel, you can introduce yourself.
Hi, Ari. I'm Hillel Brody.
Hi, Hillel.
I'm a medical integrated medicine doctor and have a practice providing different modalities, also working with children and adults. And happy to be in touch and share more about that. I met Gerard and Joseph at the Movement and Cognition Conference in Paris.
Very nice.
So Hillel is part, despite the fact he's in Israel, he's part of M3, which is mind movement. I will put that on the screen, actually. Share my screen. Share screen. And he's part of the mind movement. No, not that one. This one. He's part of the mind movement center in that we are opening in Lincoln, Nebraska. And the Mind and Movement Center is approved, and everything we do there is approved and validated by the Mental Wellness Society, plus what we do in Cuba, which is part of the Mental Wellness Society. I mean, working with the Mental Wellness Society. So the center basically is about mind, movement, and mood. And the first center is in Lincoln, Nebraska, but we have more than a dozen centers wants to open to replicate what we did, but we don't want to do it before we have at least 1 year of experience. Because we want to have the experience, to debug, to work on the way to contact clients, on we will have a lot of debugging to do. So we want to do it only on one center. I am president, for full disclosure, I am the president of Mind, Movement, and Mood Wellness Centers. So we discover, thanks to what we did with BAUD, and not just BAUD, that we can integrate positive psychology, biomechanics, and sound therapy. In fact, the mind, if I don't put my mind on taking the key of my car, I will not go to the gym.
Of course.
And if I don't do the movement, I will not be in good mood. But if I am in good mood, it will influence my mind. So the three elements that, hence you see the logo, you can enter to that cycle by any one of the three doors. I can affect your mood, your movement will affect your mind and your mood. Everything is interrelated. But the center is to give the optimal, I would say, service about psychology, biomechanics, sound therapeutics. And in psychology, we are talking about positive psychology specifically. As we speak, we are finishing the curriculum for you guys because every member using BAUD now, we train in a very short 3-4 hours positive psychology program that we do specifically to help for anxiety and things related to anxiety. But to make a very clear thing, we don't claim at this moment to be efficient for depression. And we need to differentiate what are the problems due to depression or the problem due to anxiety. With anxiety can come, similar to anxiety, obsession, stress, high stress, PTSD, it works for PTSD. It works for also panic. And we have seen that it also works for two things we are starting to see now. Stopping idealization of suicide. But we have clinical data, but we don't have scientifically validated data. And that's a big difference. Scientifically data is what I told you, including relaxation. Okay? Any question at this point?
No, you did a good job of summarizing the data.
So, because of that, we develop sound therapeutic and positive psychology. And this is a training you will have. So we have people who want to have a complete M3 center, or other people who just have to have sound therapeutic and positive psychology. Today, we are talking about only BAUD. But we have, at the top, you will see we have a cooperation with the Institute of Frequency Therapeutic, which is in Denmark. And we cooperate with them. And through them, we have been able to found amazing sound therapy. So we don't say therapy because therapy is medical term and you can get sued. But sound therapeutics is okay. So we are doing sound therapeutics. And it's okay in Europe, it's okay in America, and I guess it's okay in Israel. But we have access now to a dozen of apps that you have on your phone. And they work, for example, for PMS. They remove pain. They remove
They reduce
kind of anxiety, not the real anxiety, but kind of. But they work to help tremendously to help to sleep. And if people sleep better, it changes their life and they operate better. So just that one is amazing. And we are moving now towards very soon in our sound therapeutics, we will have BAUD in the clinic, and we will have, the other one is called Melokura, in between, at home, as people want. Okay.
Oh, that's the app.
I'm sorry?
That's the app.
That's about.
It's called
Okay.
Melokura.
Yeah.
And it works absolutely amazing. On that team, I will speak to you at a later time, but that team, the head of that team is a guy called Johnny Sardet, who is a Jew, by the way, in Denmark, one of the very few Jews in Denmark. Johnny is the Mozart of the Mozart, you know, Mozart, Beethoven.
Mozart.
He's a Mozart of sound wave. Genius. And he can, on our direction, he can create a cocktail of different waves. And he has a technique where he can mix not just one wave, but 2, 3, 4, 5 waves which don't conflict. And we are strongly cooperating with them. And M3, we call it M3, Mind, Movement, and Wellness Center. M3 is becoming the test place for all the Melokura and BAUD sound therapeutics. When I say test place, is a patient or client experience. And we look what works, how it works, and so on. But then the scientific validation, including for Melokura, will start to take place in January, also in Cuba, where we are taking the same sample of people with the same problem, and we will be applying the same protocol, because we don't want to do the analytic. And we will compare both, and we will take one app of Melokura one at a time. They committed a budget of $50,000 in order to get validated by our team. So when you see sound therapeutics, you need to understand that it's an expanding field. Now, I need to make you another disclaimer, which came yesterday. I'm laughing of it. We just discovered. We BAUD is FDA registered.
It's registered. It's recognized by the FDA, but it's an exempt.
Because FDA said that because it is a sound therapeutic, it does not need to be approved, but it needs to be registered. And I send you the certificate, I think, or I will send you the certificate of BAUD. No problem in America.
However,
However, I discovered that in Europe, because we have different centers, I need to tell you, sound therapeutic positive psychology is really interesting a lot of people, because it's the future. The future is multimodal, and sound is very important. But we realize that we need to be also now certified in Europe in order to sell in Europe, or even more, a specific certification to apply it on patients for one reason. And that's applied to BAUD, but not to Melokura. It's an electrical thing. It has a small battery, okay? It has a small battery. But because it has batteries and it is an electronic sound, Europe wants a CE-approved system, and I contacted lawyer and we are working on it. I will know more within a day or two what we need to do. And if you want to apply it, because we have different doctors, for example, in Denmark, wants to apply it in their clinic, you need to have a CEM, which is medical. So it gave us an idea to check in Israel. And guess what?
Yeah. Did you check it? Did you check it
We
already?
have to go through a process.
Wow.
And that applies to you too, my friend.
And to Hillel and to me.
Because what you have a system, your system
Yes.
come from America, you are
But
not.
it's a
Go on.
software. Well, no, actually there is a hardware part. Yeah.
There is electricity.
Yeah, but it's a computer. The main thing is a computer.
But
Right, but the headband.
The headband.
So
Yeah, the headband. That's what
by the way, the headband
Yeah.
is CE approved, I think. No, show me the box.
It's approved if it's approved in Europe, it's approved here?
no, you have to apply.
Here.
Okay, we need to buy earphone in Israel, for example, for apps and different things for you, because then it's Israel approved if it's sold in Israel.
Right,
Yeah.
but the BAUD itself
But
also
BAUD
have
itself,
to get an ARM review.
but BAUD itself has to have the approval. So we
Yeah.
are working on it. Anyway, you are in the training phase.
What does that mean? That we can't apply clinically yet until it's approved?
So this is what I came up from yesterday. Hold on.
We are working on it.
Right.
I cannot tell you yet anything because I don't think it's good to enter in that detail. We will disclose you everything, but I'm doing it before you get trained in full disclosure.
No, I'm just wondering, so at the moment I can't advertise it, for example.
I would not.
I will not. I will
Yeah.
wait for one reason. You need to be fully trained. So you need to be trained on Joe will be doing the supervision on certification. I have to tell you now you can use it, okay? And that's important. And then you can use it as a BAUD. On the training for, hopefully, on the training for psychology will start in January, and it will be 3-4 hours, very quick. And we are in the process of finishing the curriculum and validating it with a group of people. You know Seligman?
Seligman?
Martin Seligman.
Seligman is a father of positive psychology. He's known all over the world in positive psychology. His team is part of the people with whom we are working. So you cannot go better. But for full disclosure, you need to understand that we are checking the situation because we don't want to tell you you can do that, and then we put you in a problem. Now, what you want to do is your responsibility. But we are concerned too, because we sell it to you, okay? And so we need to work in agreement together on that.
Right. So I'm just going to read from the health website from the health department in Israel, the Ministry of Health. The
You
medical
can send me the
device
link
registration
afterwards.
of medical devices in Israel with granting various types of import permits for medical devices, with monitoring the marketing of medical devices, and with the issues of documents that assist in the export of medical devices. The division maintains a registration, supervision, and control system over the manufacture, import, and marketing of medical devices. The division is active in various professional frameworks within the Ministry of Health, Special Medical Equipment Forum, the Committee for the Inclusion of Medical Device in the Health Basket, and others, as well as in framework that are external to the Ministry, Standard Committee and the Standards Institution of Israel, interministerial committees in radiation-related fields. In other words, before you can market or sell this, it has to be approved by AMAR, which is the subdivision. However, that it doesn't automatically mean you can't use it from what I've read. However, we are checking with an attorney who is familiar with this process, okay, in order to provide you both and everybody else as we move forward with the full disclosed information of what you can do. So right now I would not advertise that you're going to be using BAUD, but if you have a client where you're finding that other tools are necessary and you'd like to try the use of BAUD with them, then I think under your clinical judgment, you can decide and you can determine to use it.
And tell them it's the test.
And you tell them as well that this for us, it's been validated. However, we are still in an exploratory phase here in Israel, and therefore it's not an officially recognized or approved device here in Israel.
So
Can you
the
send me
CE,
that website?
Absolutely.
the CE logo is on the earphone you received.
I'm gonna send it into
Yeah.
the WhatsApp.
Okay, but, and that's a big thing. BAUD is not a medical device.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's sound therapeutics, which is a family, on the fact, and that will help us, the fact that the FDA, and we have a paper I will share with you, I have no problem to disclose you. The sound, they said, it does not need to be approved, but it's classified, and they classified it in 2020, even again. So we don't have a problem, but we need to go through the loop because we need to make sure everything is kosher on overboard. For another reason, I have found an office in the medical building in Bet Shemesh, and there's 3 or 4 women who will rotate to take care of women with pregnancy.
Right.
So anxiety and pregnancy, which is our first market for us. For you, we will need to talk with you, Joe, and me. This is the water, Joe. We will need to talk together what type of population you are going to do it. Do you want to extend to pregnant women? We also know it will work for teen girls who have problem of anxiety and problem of diet. Works very well because in the diet, you fixate on something. You have an obsession, you have a craving. It takes out the craving. Now, and we'll speak more another day on Melokura. Melokura, from what we have seen on test, but not validation, test, have extraordinary good effect. I just get a census. I send it to you actually. It has been made on a city, and you can see the result. And that city is planning to implement Melokura on 10,000 employees of the municipality because they sleep better, they are more relaxed, they are less aggressive, and they found it amazing. So Melokura is amazing. It's coming. Obviously, you will be trained in Melokura, part of what we do, and you will be part of the system. Now, M3 is physically in Lincoln, but Lincoln, Nebraska.
Nebraska.
It's a clinic of chiropractic.
I think I'm sorry for cutting you off, but I think in terms of time, we're going to shift to BAUD. Okay.
In 1 minute.
Okay.
It's a chiropractic place attending 1,200 people a month. But you see, all those people here can intervene there online. And that was what I wanted to tell you. Hillel is doing Feldenkrais in our group, and he has been trained on Feldenkrais movement for pregnant women. We have dietitians specialized in pregnant women, and we are putting everything we can, for example, on pregnant women, but we will go one sector at a time. For now, we are anxiety pregnant women. For us, for you, we'll talk. But our idea too is you in your specialty, because now you are trained, you will be trained in positive psychology on BAUD. That's why I'm explaining that. You will be able to be part of M3, and the people can work with you online. That's an important way to scale up for you in America as well. Okay, we'll speak about that later. More is coming. Now, Joe is
I have a quick question. Will there be any possibility of having like an online dashboard if you're working with clients and to measure their like heart rate variability or something like that? And to, like, for example, the SSP program that I work with, you have an online dashboard that you can monitor different things around the client.
It will be part of the CRM we are developing.
Right, so so we're looking at, so there are two things that we're looking at. Number one, already in Lincoln, they have heart math. For looking at heart rate variability, and we can do a baseline recording and then recording during live recording during the session, and you'll be able to see the data and even track it over time. And so that will be
it will be totally multimedia, advanced multimedia, and of course it's a flagship. But from there we can go in other centers we are developing. But we will speak about that another moment. That's what I needed to speak with you. But
Yeah.
I just wanted to tell you, Hillel is part of M3, Joe is part of M3, I am part of M3, and you are becoming part of M3. And there is no question, no idea. You have any question, there is no embarrassing question. There is nothing to hide. We want to be totally open on everything. So anything which pop up in your mind, fine. Because we want to make it on the high road. And we want to do it only where we can back what we say and to do what we say. Okay, with that said, Dr. Wallach is impatiently waiting to tell you about BAUD.
Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is just so everybody can look at their BAUD. So you have your BAUD by you in front of you, I hope.
Yes.
Can you mute your mic?
Hmm?
Can you mute your microphone and take it off of your shared screen?
You want me to stop the microphone?
Ari, can you hear me okay?
Now I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, very well.
Can you turn off your shared screen? Stop your sharing your screen and allow me to share my screen. Okay, let's see. Just share that. Okay. It's bigger. Okay. So everybody has their BAUD by them. Okay, and the first thing I want you to do is just look very, very simply at the flat of the screen, okay, of the BAUD device, and just shows you it's kind of in small writing, but we have the labels for the controls, okay, for on the top left disruptor, top right frequency, and then on the bottom right we have volume control, bottom left we have the left volume control, and on the side or the small side over here we have the on-off switch. It should all be, everything should be set to 0 and everything should be off. And then there's the headphone jack also. So it's a standard headphone jack. Okay, so it's important to always start every session from the beginning. Everything should be set off into 0, 0, 0. And the two sets of controls, the bottom controls actually work clockwise, okay? And the top controls work counterclockwise. I don't know if that's advantageous, but it's important to note so that when you're looking at it, that the top controls for the frequency and disruptor work counterclockwise and the volume controls work clockwise. The research that we did, okay, and I want to start with the research that we looked at 60 individuals, okay, and they were assessed for post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms using the PCL5, which is what's used at the VA hospitals in America. We assessed for generalized anxiety using the GAD7. We assessed for depression using the BDI2, and also for COVID stress symptoms. And the four groups that we looked at, or the four groups that were assessed, they were treated very differently, okay? So we had the standard treatment. So people either continued in medication intervention or they were in therapy. People were provided the BAUD intervention of twice a week, 20 minutes a week, okay, separated by 2 days, okay. We had a white noise group where they were listening to just a standard white noise sound. So it's kind of a sham intervention. And we also did waitlist control. Over the 4 weeks, with, again, 20 minutes twice a week, what we found is people reported statistically significant reductions in their level of anxiety, post PTSD symptoms, and COVID stress. Okay, we did not see a change in the depression with this level of this type of intervention. Again, 20 minutes twice a week. Okay, and
amazing.
the results were significant. And actually, what was interesting, and I think was really what is important to understand, is that this is not a cure. This doesn't permanently change the person.
No.
2 weeks after the intervention, people had returned back to pretty much where they were baseline. Right. So when they stopped their intervention, okay, 12 weeks later, their levels of anxiety and stress had come back up. Okay. Now, again, this was done in Cuba. Okay. The data collection was done in a neurological clinic in Cuba. And the stress of COVID was still present. Okay. It wasn't done. And I think so. It's important to recognize people were still living with a pretty high level of stress in their life. And I think there are plenty of other stressors in Cuba anyway. So this was a sample that, you know, it's interesting to me to see that this is an intervention. It's a tool, but it's like going to the gym or going to go running or go walking for health. It's something you have to keep on doing to maintain the benefit. Okay. And the afterwards, okay, and we've heard this from the researchers there, is the participants who were involved in the study have requested to come back and to resume the intervention because they were feeling better. And this is where we find some clinical data, not research data. There was a small group of people who were even in more acute distress, who they allowed the intervention to go, instead of 20 minutes, but up to really to 30 minutes. And they continued also. And these were people who were suicidal, okay? And they were no longer suicidal, okay? They wanted to live. So this is actually where the clinical data comes along. And I think that this is suggestive that we would find benefit for depression as well. But for depression, we might need to do a longer treatment. Okay, it might need to be the 30 minutes. It might need to be more than twice a week. But it's good to know already that there's some indicators that this is a useful tool. And full disclosure, I was skeptical. I did not think that this was going to do anything. I was like, Dr. Leisman from Haifa University, who's also involved in the University of Havana, he also was skeptical. And it didn't make any sense. Just listening to a sound that is not really enjoyable is going to make me feel better. That doesn't make any sense. And I will say, it took me a long time, okay, to adjust and to get comfortable listening to the sound. And I will, again, full disclosure, I have 2 clients that I tried to use this with who were not able to use it therapeutically, okay? One of them has for years, since he was a child, is very sensitive to sound. Okay. And we got him, I think, up to between 3 or 4 minutes at the maximum over the course of 2 weeks of him trying to use it. A couple of times a week, he would come in between his sessions and take it and use it in my waiting room. He couldn't get beyond 3 or 4 minutes, maybe 5 minutes maximum. And he said he was like kind of struggling through to just continue hearing the sound at the lowest volume that was audible to him. Okay, which was just around 1 on the volume setting for each of the ears. And at a fairly low level of the frequency, he tried adjusting the frequency and couldn't find anything that was more tolerable to him. I have another client who
do you know, I'm sorry to ask, do you know if he had some kind of sensory disorder or something? Or
Right. He may have some sort of sensory disorder. Hold on a second. I'm just going to mute my phone. Just because otherwise I'll get more phone calls also. To do not disturb. Focus. Work. No more phone calls will come in. So I believe he has some sort of sensory issues, but this is a gentleman in his 50s who presented with what I would call passive suicidality that he's had for years. Okay, related to the fact that he feels like he's accomplished everything that he could really do in his life, and he is carrying an immense amount of guilt for the damage that what he believes that the damage he caused to his children during their childhood. And he feels that he can't fix those things. When I initially met him, he came in with fibromyalgia, with chronic pain, daily cannabis use to help manage the pain, but he was sort of like in the clouds. He's since, with the work that we did with cognitive behavioral therapy, and this was before BAUD, this is already a few years ago, with cognitive behavioral therapy and working to not be afraid of movement and not be afraid of pain. And I should say his background is he is a personal physical coach. He's a Mamen Ishi. He was trained here in Wingate. And he has a lot of sensitivities. Okay. And he said for years he's been very sensitive to sound. He loves music, enjoys music, but not all music. Okay. So he does not enjoy like cacophonic sounds.
So there is certain frequency. Several frequency are making the problem.
Correct. But he enjoys to sing like Shabbat Nigunim and stuff like that. He's a very interesting gentleman. But he's very sensitive to sound. The other client is also sensitive to sound, but I think more him it's even more interesting because he is a Baal Koreh, a Baal Tokeya, a Chazan. He's very musically inclined, and frequencies of the BAUD are not super pleasant. And we were really trying it because there is, according to the manufacturer, there's a protocol that they use for sleep that they recommend to try to help with sleep. And for him, it's not, once he goes to sleep, he's okay. It is, he pushes off going to bed for as long as he can because he is afraid that he won't fall asleep. And there's like a family history of sleep onset delay that's kind of going back at least 2 or 3 generations, his parents, his grandparents, and perhaps his great grandparents, according to his.
Wow.
And his siblings also.
You have problem to sleep or he fall asleep?
Problem to go to bed, problem to go to fall asleep. Once he's asleep, but he has a lot of restless movements also at night. If he's having a bad night, he wakes his wife up many times because he really is tossing and turning. But so I have these 2 clients who I wanted to give them a tool because everything else that we've done, like I've seen reductions in anxiety and depression with both of these clients and they're functioning and they're back to life. But one of them still struggles with these passive suicidal thoughts. Like if I have a heart attack tonight while I'm sleeping, it's okay, I'm fine, and the other client he just wishes he could sleep more regularly, right? On a nightly basis. And no medication has really been effective long-term for him. His body gets adjusted to it very quickly. And after 2 or 3 months, he's back to not sleeping properly. And there are other issues also with both these clients. But these 2 clients were unable to use the BAUD, okay? I've used it with a few other clients. Again, clinically in cases where we were seeing if it would be beneficial to reduce their level of distress. And I only started doing this after the study, the data was already evaluated, because I didn't want to use something that I didn't think was validated. Okay. And so for the last few months, I've started using this only with certain clients where I think it might be a useful tool to add in. And if they're going to be consistent, if they'll come in on a day that's not their appointment and use it for 20 minutes. And I have other clients who they're not going to come in a second time. And it's really, I'm trying to strictly follow the therapeutic protocol, which is what we've validated. So they have to be willing to come in twice a week for 20 minutes. The clients that I'm using it with right now, they'll use it for either 20 minutes before or after their session. So it's not taking away from their therapy. And then they have to come in one more time for 20 minutes. And we schedule it, and I just put it in the waiting room, and they'll use it in the waiting room. And then after they're done, they put it back where it was.
So you don't let them to take it home.
So the two clients that I mentioned that didn't end up using it or aren't using it, I did let them take it home. Okay, they each gave me a deposit to hold on to. Okay, just as, because again, it's not a free device, so they kind of let me hold on to something that was valuable. So each of them each time when they had done this, they each gave me 200 shekel just as kind of like a deposit. And if they broke it or lost it, they were going to pay me for the full value so I could get a new one.
Today, the public price is $500.
Right.
And we know it's going up.
Right. Anyway, so this is the full disclosure. Okay. So now, how do you use the BAUD? Okay. And I think that's really this is what we really need to talk about today. And so I'm going to really try to keep an eye on that. So first of all is we take a client that we think that they are presenting with anxiety or high levels of stress. Okay. And you want to provide them an additional tool, or you want to provide them something that has no theoretical side effects, like every medication has side effects. There's no major homework that they have to do other than doing it twice a week. There's nothing else that they need to do. Unlike even with cognitive behavioral therapy, there's a lot of work my clients have to do. They have to practice relaxation techniques. They have to do it every day. They have to fill out an automatic thought record. They have to increase their physical activity. This is something that's relatively passive. And if a person can tolerate the sound, okay, and if they can listen to it, and the first session, you will be doing it with them, okay? I know the clients that I've done it with, we've done the first few sessions together, okay, and haven't even done full 20 minutes in the session in the office. Then they start, and then once they're comfortable, then they go sit in the waiting room. So that we begin with being familiar with the device. Every session starts with the settings being set to 000, okay, and that's where we start. We don't even turn it on yet. We ask the client about their triggering anxiety, or their triggering stress, to get a better understanding of what's wrong, okay? Whether they're anxious about school or exams or relationships or leaving the house or afraid of having a panic attack, afraid of driving, whatever it may be. We ask questions to get a basic understanding of what the triggers are that they're experiencing. And they may have multiple triggers, but we want to get a fairly comprehensive list without going into detail. This is not an exposure, but we want to get a sort of a list and a basic understanding of what the problems are, what the triggers are, when did they start, how long have they been present, okay? This is just clinically useful information. And I think also then on a subjective scale, okay, you can ask them to rate the level of distress on what's called the subjective units of distress scale, the SUDS scale, 0 to 10, or you can use like there's a line bar that's used with pain as well, okay, which is 0 to 10, and they sometimes have smiley faces, the same idea, just have them draw a mark of where it is on that. But again, the goal is for each of their triggers, we want to understand their level of distress. As a scientist, feel free, get the GAD-7 or the BDI or the PTSD scales and record, okay, to get an idea of really where they are, okay? And I'm happy for you to get that. If you want, I can tell you where you can find it even. They are available. I think a lot of these are now available for use for research purposes and even for clinical purposes.
We have found a differential test which will make the difference between anxiety and depression. And that could be useful to make the difference.
Right.
Because at this moment,
Only
we are
anxiety.
going after anxiety.
Right, correct. Once you've gotten the background of their anxiety triggers, the next step is actually to find out what will help them to relax. Okay, so you have the person think about a time or a place where they felt most safe, most calm, most secure, most peaceful, most relaxed. And you ask them leading questions, okay, getting into all 5 senses, in my opinion. So we have sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. Okay, all the trushot, basically. And we really want to have the person build up a fairly strong image of what they find relaxing. Okay.
Or motivating.
Or motivating, or pleasant.
Feeling good. Feeling good.
Correct. Feeling good, feeling positive. I tend to think about mostly using the relaxation one. Okay. I have a few clients who they struggle, they don't know what they find relaxing. And so there we work on safe. Okay, it's always interesting when somebody can't feel relaxed, but they can feel safe. And if they can't feel either of those, then I have them think about maybe a pleasant experience. Okay. But again, with whatever the positive image is going to be, and that positive experience is going to be, we want to really make it work with the 5 senses: sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and as much detail as they can include. If you want, you can write that down for them. Okay, it sometimes is nice for the client. You can write down what they describe, but it's not necessary. If they don't want to tell you what it is, I have one client who wants to share with me what their place is. That's okay, but they can call it up.
You mean only the safe and good places, not the bad ones?
Correct.
Right? The details are only for the good.
That's correct.
Actually, the fact you speak about the bad one, the way I start is, now you know what is a bad one. Tell me about going to a place which is the opposite of the bad one.
Right.
And what is that opposite for you? And it does not tell me, say, you have it in your mind? Yes, I have it in my mind. How strong is it? 5, 6, 7. Okay. Now Joe, continue.
So Avram just got to the exact point that I was going to get. Have them rate on their, instead of using a subjective unit of distress scale, it's almost subjective unit of positive or relaxation. Okay, how strong is their sense of peacefulness or relaxation or joy? Okay, and that's the crucial point, because when we start with the BAUD, what we're doing with the protocol is actually having them focus on their positive or their peaceful, their relaxation or their joyful experience. And that's when you then introduce the BAUD. Okay, you've now got, let's say it's 5 out of 10, and you say, okay, now we're going to use the device, and they're going to plug in their headphones. You're going to show them how to use the different controls. And they're going to start with really each of the ears separately and make sure they have to check to make sure that when they turn on the sound to the right ear first, maybe, or the left ear, that's the one that they're hearing. Okay, I had one client who he reversed it by accident and we caught it right away, and he switched the headphones. Okay, but because it's not always so easy. It's not like it says, although on the device it says right ear and left ear. Okay, sometimes on the headphones it's not as easily labeled. It's not as well labeled. Okay, and I can even show that on the headphones that I was using. Okay, I don't see a right or left, okay, on my headphones, okay.
How do you know?
So those will probably be easier because I think those are shaped to specifically fit the ear better, okay, right versus left. But
it says on it as well.
So those say the ones that had come with my older BAUD, with my older device, weren't as nice. The headphones that I got weren't as nice as yours. You get better headphones, which is good.
It's structured well. What's this for? This thing?
I think it's just to help hold the plates, so it helps keep it in your ear a little bit better, perhaps.
Oh, okay, it says right.
So you put it on, and you will see left is left or right or right.
Right, correct. So when you put it in, when you plug it in and put your headset in, turn on the device. And then begin to turn on the volume for one ear and make sure that that's the ear that you hear from. Okay, and then plug in the other one and turn on the volume to the second ear.
Comfortable.
Okay.
Comfortable.
And again, I'm just gonna, this is a very simple manual in my opinion. Okay, it's sort of a modified version of what initially was put out by the manufacturer. Okay, so it's got some background, and again, it shows all the things that are present. Okay, and again, when you turn the volume on, okay, what we really want to do is we want to have the volume at a comfortable but loud volume that you can tolerate, that you believe that you can listen to for quite a while. Okay.
Not too strong.
Not too strong. Okay. But again, we begin with everything set to 0. Make sure you have batteries for the device. Make sure the batteries are have power. Okay. I made that mistake once where I didn't have batteries and then I had to change them out. I always keep extras in my office. But everything starts with 0, 0, 0, and then you find the volume first. And the frequency is still going to be set to 0, the disruptors set to 0. Once you find the volume for both ears that you can tolerate, okay, and again, comfortable but loud, then you're going to begin to adjust with the client, or the client will adjust the frequency, which is the yellow knob, okay, the top right. And they're adjusting the frequency until they find the frequency that increases, that leads to an increased positive experience, okay, from their peaceful, relaxing, or joyful
Of the positive image.
okay, image. Correct. And again, at this point, the sounds are the same between the two ears. Okay, it's one frequency that is being heard on both sides. Okay.
And you have them. How wide now is that positive image?
Right. And how
And it
right.
could be the same, it will not be less. It will be the same. Or they will say, oh,
It's
before
strong.
it was 6, now I'm 8.
Right. And and again, they're going to continue. I want the client to continue adjusting the frequency until they find the frequency that leads to the highest level on that positive scale, 0 to 10 of the positive. And once they find that highest frequency, again, we're going to have them turn off the device, okay, and take a moment, okay, and they're going to rate everything. We're going to check the frequency. We're going to record the level of the frequency that they were using. We're going to record the volumes that they were using, okay. And now when we get to then we start.
You write it down.
I want to record it. I'm a big believer. Record it so that way when the client comes back, you know what volume and what frequency they need. And then also when we start the next part, when we turn it back on, then they start to adjust the disruptor. And again, they're adjusting the disruptor until they find a frequency of, or a differential between the two ears. That's what the disruptor does, is it creates a difference from 0 to 20 hertz between the two ears.
We made a sheet. So you are on that sheet, you can put a circle.
Right, or
Of
an
their
X,
level.
right? You can put a circle, or you can put a line.
Because it will be
through.
the same
Right.
on every session.
Hopefully it will be the same for every session. I'm not sure about that yet, but that's what we're anticipating.
But what's the importance of starting with the kind of anxiety level if you're moving to the positive level?
Because hopefully when we come back after the end of the session, we're going to have them come back to their anxiety level. And also over the 4 weeks, we're going to have them come back to that anxiety, and it's going to hopefully be lower. So we want to see over the course of the intervention. I'm a believer at where are you at the baseline? Where are you after that each session? What's your level of the stress when you think about these triggering events?
What happened is when the board works, you have them after the session. Now that thing was giving you problem. When you think about it, how do you feel? On the answer, it does not disturb me.
You're familiar obviously with polyvagal theory, right? So with SSP, maybe if you can see me with SSP and polyvagal theory, particularly Deb Dana, who works clinically with this, is you've got this ladder between the ventral vagal, the sympathetic, and the dorsal vagal. So this kind of anxiety state could be associated with either dorsal vagal or sympathetic, or a mixture. And it should do a similar thing in terms of navigating with the client where they are on this kind of ladder of the autonomic nervous system. So it's very parallel to what you're describing, but it's working in terms of.
But specifically, they're talking about the nerves of the vagal nerve, the polyvagal nerve, the dorsal.
The autonomic nervous system.
Right.
So when you're in a state of positivity, you're essentially in your ventral vagal system. When you're in a state of anxiety, it could be a state of like kind of panic, which is more sympathetic.
Correct.
Or it could be a state of frozenness, in which it would be more
Flight freeze.
right. So the freeze is more the dorsal
Yeah.
vagal. So it might be interesting also to think about that with delivering this or not. I just
Yeah, great question.
It's great questions that we haven't even explored.
But we will be very happy if you can look into it and tell us, because the idea is, as a group, we help each other to get the best result.
Because I mean, if there's an improvement in heart rate variability, it's because you're in a ventral vagal state, which is directing the autonomic nervous system.
Yeah, but
So is that also triggering parasympathetic response also if your heart rate variability?
Well, this parasympathetic is both yes, but it's both ventral vagal and dorsal vagal. So, but it's more moving from a state of to ventral vagal, which is the vagal nerve above the diaphragm, which is myelinated, and which is associated with social interaction, the rest of the cranial nerves. And the dorsal vagal would be unmyelinated below the diaphragm.
which vagal?
The dorsal vagal. The
I'm sorry?
dorsal vagal.
Dorsal vagal.
Yes. So this is according to the polyvagal theory. And definitely this is providing some kind of ventral vagal stimulation as well. Maybe predominantly, maybe other systems, I don't know. But
more questions and more things to look at, and we have to figure out how to look at them. I think that's those are great questions. So I wish I had an answer for you, but we had
part of the research.
Anyway,
It should be part of the research we're going to do.
it could be, especially as we're preparing the study to start in January.
Okay, so now we are attacking the
So now we're
tough one.
So now we're looking at the tough one, which is the disruptor, which is it's not so tough.
Oh,
Hear this a singular
it's
sound.
fine. I lost you. Can you repeat the last? I don't know why. Just stopped for a few seconds.
Unstable. Hold on. Let's see. Okay.
Yeah, you were muted.
Now, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes, I hear you perfect.
Okay. So with the disruptor, again, we're creating a separation between the tones in the two ears. Okay, the frequency.
Wait, I'm sorry, just to be sure that I understood. So after we get to the highest good
Positive.
feeling,
Right.
positive feeling,
With the frequency.
so we stop with the frequency
We stop for a moment initially, so
for a
that
moment.
we can then give the client the instructions for how to use the disruptor, which is
Okay.
very similar. Okay, which is really, again, they're going to start adjusting the difference between the two ears until, again, we find that their positive level has gone even higher. And they should do this very incrementally and take a little time, take, 20 or 30 seconds at each little increment that they change until they find that the difference, okay, or the disruptor setting that is the highest level, even above where they were before for positive, okay, subjective experience.
I have another observance. I'm speaking with the people and I ask them, what is the highest level of disruptor which does not stop you to think about the positive image?
Okay.
Which is because I am not sure we can go higher. But what I'm doing is make sure that the disruptor does not take you away of the positive image.
Correct.
doesn't diminish it.
Doesn't reduce it, diminish it. So I appreciate that, because I haven't done that. I've found for clients that I have yet to find a client, and again, I've only been using this with clients clinically for a few months, and I don't use it with all of them. I've yet to find a client that on their subjective positive experience scale that they were able to give me a 10 out of 10. with just a frequency. I think I've maxed at 7 or 8 with my clients. In terms of their positive on their frequency. So again, the frequency they find their setting, it's 0 to 6. Okay, but whatever their frequency was, the highest I've gotten is 7 or 8 on positive. And again, I'm seeing clients that are presenting with high anxiety, high levels of stress. So I'm probably seeing a different group of people than you'd be seeing.
Exactly. I have seen a 10, several 10, but they don't have anxiety because they were testing both.
Got it.
I have 2 questions. Okay.
Go ahead.
One is 0 to 6 is the disruptor. So can you explain what happens between 0 to 3 and what happens between 3 to 6? Because you've got 2 ears. So it's
I know
starting
how
with the left ear and then the right ear. Is it
Okay.
like, what is happening? Actually?
So that's a great question. So what's happening is the hertz that you're hearing from 0, let's say from 0 to 6, okay, creates a separation of 20 hertz between both ears. Okay, at 6 it's 20, at 0 it's no difference. Okay,
but how is it working? Is it the right ear that's increasing and the left ear diminishing, or is it the opposite?
I don't know. I can check. I don't know.
We have a meeting tonight. We should write the question.
You want to write it down? Yeah.
Write the question here for tonight. We have a scientific meeting tonight with a manufacturer on the validating team.
That's why I thought maybe 0 to 3 is left ear and 4 to 6 is right ear, but it's not. It seems like it's.
I have no opinion.
If I knew, I would tell you. Since I don't know, it's a good question.
Because maybe they need to add another button or another dial so that you are, because that you're changing between the 2 ears. It seems like, I don't know if it makes a difference if it's like left ear or right ear that is increasing or diminishing.
I don't know.
But the other thing I want to say is also with my work with SSP, I integrate Feldenkrais.
Right.
Which this could be also amazing to do Feldenkrais before or after, or because it also makes the nervous system right.
Or breathing technique.
Yes.
Yeah,
body scan.
Because it's
Body scan.
vagal nerve.
Yeah, body scan, diaphragmatic breathing, lots of options. Again, so in terms of the frequencies, okay, just going back. So the basic at 0, in terms of the frequency with the volume on, you're hearing a tone at 39 hertz. At the maximum at 6, okay, you are hearing 362 hertz. Okay. And when we turn on, when you use the disruptor, okay.
How much, sorry, 200,
362. Okay, and when we use the disruptor, we're creating a separation or a difference between the two. So let's say one ear, again, if one is going down as opposed to up, then we'd be at 342 and 362 if it's by reducing one. Or if it's by going up, one would be at 362 and one would be at 382. And we will check with the manufacturer tonight to get more clarification. Okay.
If you're gonna speak with him, I just thought, I don't know if it's before I know anything, so maybe I'm just saying nothing, but I was thinking that if it's so important to know which frequency was the one that I felt the most positive feeling or negative or whatever, I think, I don't know, but I think it should have some kind of screen I mean, the frequency could be written in a small display or something.
No, we have a sheet of paper.
No. But what Ari was saying is he thinks that it would be interesting. It would be useful in future. I guess it would be useful.
Yeah, in the future.
Frequency.
And to show where the frequency is.
Just show the number. I mean, you can write it down exactly. Right. What I was thinking is that actually it's difficult to be exact in the same place again.
Well, the manufacturer is insisting on the choice of those dials because they are all tight but very precise.
right?
Yeah.
If you go electronic, not precise.
No, I agree.
No, but
But
no,
the display could show you, could show you the frequency.
questions
Okay.
are great. And again, we're not the manufacturer, so we're
I
sticking.
know.
But again, if there is ever, if we can update
Good
the
question.
device, or good question, good suggestions, again, could we actually get precise what frequency is in each ear? That would be
Yeah.
those great questions, and it should be, again, with today's advanced technology compared to when this was initially made, and they're following the same, they're making it the same way they've made it for years, right?
Wow.
So if they could, with today, they could really show what frequency is the person using, that would be amazing.
And
Yeah,
each
I think it's
mode
gonna make it easy.
calibrated,
Right, each one
and
is,
calibrated like the other one.
right. Right, so it's very, what they're doing, what the manufacturer is doing is very time consuming. Okay, very precise. There's probably a way to do this and make it much easier, okay? However, this is what we have, so this is what we're
Yeah.
gonna.
Is there any competitive device in the market that does something similar?
No,
So
no, not validated.
not that we know of that has been validated the way that this has been done. Does that make sense? Okay, so I think that there are other like you can go onto YouTube and you can find binaural tones that you have to use like headphones so you can hear two different sounds, right? And there are plenty of things that use this idea of having the differential. Okay, this isn't new, okay, to the world. This is taking old ideas, and this is been validated now. We've done a study again when we're trying to stick to what we know. Go ahead.
There is a big trend of binaural sound. It's a big, huge way. And we are a binaural system.
Yes.
But in the binaural, there is a lot of different things. And the binaural idea is by doing an imbalance, you will facilitate to get in alpha state. Okay. But that's because of the imbalance. But we are going one step further, because the disruptor is your brain will adjust to not be disturbed of the disruptor. And that is what we cannot say have an effect on neuroplasticity, but it's very close.
Right.
And that is the only one which does that.
Right. Well,
We know.
What we can say is that it definitely has an impact on the functioning of different areas in the brain, where we see different patterns of areas of the brain that were active before and after the 4 weeks. Okay, so there's clearly a change that's happening in the brain. Again, with a disruptor, what we want to have happen is the person is going to, again, experience, okay, the sound. They're still listening to the sound, but hopefully what happens, okay, and this is what we really try to understand, is that when the person is using it, what they really hear is actually a singular tone. The brain will take the two different sounds and hear a singular tone, okay? And it's kind of this differential, okay, is a new tone or a harmonic, that's like an overtone, okay? So we have the basal tone, which was the initial frequency that was heard in both ears, and then we're hearing this difference, okay? And this overtone, or this difference or harmonic is what is associated with the brain waves. Again, if we're really thinking about it from at least at the base level, from like even half a hertz, okay, it's turned on and you're using a slight differential. We're going to go with, let's say, 0.5 up to 20 hertz. And this is what associates from delta all the way through beta waves of the brain, okay?
And our system shows the difference. Also, we have different tests of functionality, performance, but the most striking one is the fMRI, because you see the before and after. And the after, the prefrontal cortex is fully ignited.
Is there any indication of this for autism?
So
we think that.
So again, what we're sticking with what we've been able to validate so far. We hope to extend with more and more clinical studies. Okay. Again, we're sticking right now with what we've been able to validate. What the manufacturer suggests is he's found on his, I guess, in his clinical but not scientifically validated studies, is they've used this with ADHD, with chronic pain, with depression, with autism. And so I, as a scientist and as a clinician, always think, well, that's snake oil salesman.
But it's used presently for motion sickness. On NASA have that on the space station to remove the motion sickness.
Right.
And problems with, like, for example, vestibular neuritis, people with balance issues. Do you think it might have an effect or might exacerbate it? You don't know.
Don't know. I can tell you
Hunch.
Okay, I can tell you that there's an interest in using this for the what was it, the Havana syndrome.
You know the Havana syndrome?
So
No.
Spy
so
using
right,
microwave
ultra high
on the
frequencies.
people of the brain swallowing,
completely.
and it is proven
I think it was
work
Soviet.
for apparently.
Yes.
And there is something cooking about that.
Right, so there's something that's cooking with that. Again, once the data is in, I'd happy to talk more about it. But in the meantime, we're just using this for stress, anxiety, obsessions, PTSD,
Panic.
OCD, panic, and the anxiety spectrum.
And you advise twice a week, 20 minutes, or
Twice a week.
how many period of time?
So what we've seen is that, again, based on the data, the data from the study is twice a week, 20 minutes for 4 weeks, and people are in significant improvement. People can go beyond that, I believe. Okay. From the researcher who allowed non-participants in the data, where they did up to 30 minutes. So if a person finds that 20 minutes is providing benefit and they want to go for 22 or 24 or up to 30, they found even stronger results. But again, 20 minutes twice a week, and people are reporting significant benefit. And I think that that's what we start with, because that's what the publishing data that we have.
There is something very important. The manufacturer have been around for many years.
About 40, I think.
But they never succeed to validate. What we are on, even his protocol, in our opinion, was not that efficient, because he was going too much back and forth, negative, positive, negative, positive. We ask negative only at the beginning as an indication, but then we work on positive. So what we validate, and Joe said it 5 times, I will say it one more time, more in detail. We validated the BAUD machine that you have here with the protocol that we explain you. And any variation is not validated.
Okay. What else do I want to ask?
Correct?
Yeah.
And I will share with you a video recording. We had Joe and I speaking with the head researcher in Cuba. And she explained us exactly what she was doing, how she was doing, and how amazed she was of the result. Because the nurse and the doctor were coming to her office to get a boat fix. And she's very surprised how it worked, but it only worked well the way she designed the protocol. And she did not follow, that's a disclosure, she did not follow the protocol that Joe told her to do.
Right.
She adjusted and she found better.
Right. So I see now why Frank Lawless is so interested in working with you, because you validated his
device
for the first time.
Right. For all the years that that research has been done, either Frank has been a part of it, or they weren't doing significant difference groups. So they would do Like they would look at BAUD treatment pre and post, but with a weightless control, not comparing it to what the accepted therapies. And we found this to be as effective as medication or psychotherapy. And I'll be honest, how many clients are willing to come in to therapy? Many clients don't want to do therapy. And many clients don't want to take medications because of all the side effects, or they tried medications and they had to stop due to side effects.
I want to ask about that. I mean, have there been any adverse kind of reactions, or people who are coming with PTSD who are like
No negative
So
reaction.
from the study, none of the clients had adverse response. Okay.
And also Frank never.
And Frank, according to Frank, he has never dealt with any significant adverse response. I will tell you again, this wasn't an adverse response. I had these two clients who they found the tone
couldn't do it.
that it was unpleasant to them.
Okay.
And it might be reflective of maybe they have some sort of like sensory sensitivity that they specifically to sound that they were not able to deal with.
There is an adverse effect.
Change.
That when they feel better, they get hooked on it. But it is not a dependence.
Right.
It's, I was feeling so good. I want to feel good again. Give me the boat.
Right. I want to continue feeling good. I don't want to feel anxious again. I don't like feeling anxious again, or I don't like feeling.
So they mix it.
Right.
I have another question. Sorry if I'm monopolizing
Absolutely.
a bit,
No,
but you mentioned that the one client who had an adverse reaction was using cannabis. So I've recently started using CBD in my clinic.
Oh, so
and just to say that the law in Israel has changed so that people can purchase CBD, if you didn't know,
Right.
without a prescription.
correct. So I'll clarify. He hasn't used cannabis. When we started the BAUD, he hadn't been using cannabis for over a year. He
In
stopped-
Denmark, they do.
He stopped cannabis use completely because he found it was too interfering for him to maintain the level of pain reduction, provided he felt that he was so foggy that he wasn't able to be fully aware of what he was doing. And this is a guy who he's an author, he teaches and he does therapy, physical therapies. And he's like, I don't like how this is, and I want to go back to functioning. So he stopped cannabis use completely.
Can I just say that CBD doesn't have THC, so
Correct.
it shouldn't have any of these
But
side effects.
He's done CBD also, and he did find it the benefit for his fibro.
We also have seen people kind of falling asleep. They could not sleep before. And they come, they have anxiety, they cannot sleep. But with the BAUD, they doze, they start to sleep. And we believe it's better to avoid it.
Right. During the training,
During the training.
during the training, I don't want them to sleep. But if they feel drowsy, I'm happy. And if they will reduce self-report, if they'll do a sleep log, okay, if their sleep is better, okay, it even validates the fact that they're getting a benefit from those sessions. Because if they were not sleeping before, but due to their anxiety, okay, so they're having secondary insomnia, okay, and now suddenly they're able to go to sleep and sleep better. We already see a benefit.
Does it, I mean, theoretically, the nervous system might be absorbing the sound even while the plant is
It could,
sleeping.
absolutely. So again, in terms of just what I recommend at this point is to try to ensure that the client doesn't fall into a sleep, but they can be, if they're drowsy, I think that's an indicator that they're having a beneficial response. If they're feeling calm, okay, and again, the goal is that when we found a setting that is maximizing their positive emotional affect, whether they're feeling relaxed or pleasure or joy or happiness or whatever it is, if they're feeling an increase of that during the BAUD while they're using it, and then again, the next part, now they've found their optimal settings on the disruptor, the frequency, and the volume. Then we start a timer, 20 minutes. Okay. During
Yeah, sorry.
Again, 20 minutes.
20 minutes. Right.
I mean, they hear it for 20 minutes.
Once we find their optimal setting, that's when
When we find it.
that's
Wow.
when it starts. Okay. And the initial, again, the initial taking the time to get there, it took me with the clients it's taken me 15 minutes slowly with them to help them find their settings. Okay. And then we turn on their 20-minute timer. And again, I to the clients that I've used this with, okay, it's only a handful where I found that this has been helpful. Okay, two that I'm not including. We've done this during their therapy session. Okay, and I'm teaching them how to use it. They're identifying, and then they are identifying, and we've identified their optimal settings. Then I'm staying with them during that 20 minutes to make sure that they're not, if they find that they were uncomfortable. I had a client who adjusted during the session, they adjusted their disruptor, okay, during the 20 minutes. And I didn't restart the timer, but we made a note that they adjusted the disruptor during the 20 minutes, okay? And we went back the next time that they used it, they went to the initial setting, and then very quickly they went to the new setting after about a minute or two, and that's now their setting that they're using, which is why I question whether we keep us, like, is it always the same or not?
No, but the paper we prepare is for each session.
Correct.
But we look at the session before.
Correct.
Again, can you say it again, Abraham? I didn't.
We have a chart that I'll send you the image of it. We have a chart that shows the four knobs where you can then note where the person had set their settings. And each session, what I've done now is my clients, when they're using this, they start their time with the same settings from the previous session, but then on the next graph, the next chart, they note where they were on that session.
You start there and you improve.
Okay.
But on that sheet of paper, we have also what is the positive thing they are, what is the negative thing they are,
They're
the level,
and they're positive.
on the positive level. Because it's very important to see how it varies.
Okay.
We keep that, but we give you a sheet.
And you integrate this with your positive psychology.
So I've integrated this with my EMDR and my cognitive therapy, and I blend positive psychology into my approach, and I blend MFC into everything. So it's I take everything that I learn, and it kind of I pull it all in. But I've been using this now for several months with a few clients, and we have found one client who is sleeping better, okay, and their level of anxiety is way down, which has really happened around the same time. They started to sleep, and their anxiety had gone down, okay, and they're continuing. Now the therapy that we're doing in the session isn't the BAUD. We're doing the cognitive therapy, and we're doing some exposure work because they have OCD, and they're still tracking between our sessions. They're doing logs, and on the 2 days the day that they see me, they do BAUD, and they do BAUD one other day a week.
At home or
No, in the office. They come into the office, they do it in the waiting room.
So
yeah.
in M3, we are going to do, you need to show him the diffuser. And we use a special oil, and we tested many of them. We don't want something which is disturbing, invading.
It's aromatherapy.
This one, aromatherapy. But this one is a very relaxing one, and it does not smell strong.
Right.
And also,
So
if it's orange, if there is citrus, you see either yellow or orange in the color, in what you see.
Yes.
So we'll give you the name of the one we have, because it's good to all do the same. The second thing is, in M3, we are going to use color in the room. So what we do, we level down a little bit the level of light, not too strong, and we are doing color. And we have found an interesting thing. On the board, we put a splitter. So we have a splitter for the earphone, and the other part of the splitter goes for the color. And we want to validate in M3, but you are free to do it or not. And the system for the color is $35, so not much. But the more we are multisensorial, the more we get success.
Absolutely.
And the more we mix different techniques in addition to the BAUD, the more there will be results. That's why we are experimenting in M3 Center.
What
And we
having
want you
a-
to experiment, and we want you to experiment on ELAN and see what works.
and like doing it in a snoozling room or something like that.
I'm sorry.
You know the snoozling room?
Yeah,
Room where you have like
exactly.
room. Like
It's too much because I have
Yeah.
found that the people are a little bit anxious to go in what you call the bariatric room or something like that. No, we want it light. We are not therapy. We are comfort. And that's very important. And we're calming. So calming smell, comfortable smell, calming light, comfortable light,
safety.
and the color of light are important because there is color therapy. So there is no reason not to use color therapy in addition to both, because we want the maximum result.
And photobiomodulation, is that? Photobiomodulation.
We could do that too.
They also have a gadget for that.
Like an onion. you put one layer on one layer and one layer. But for now, today the training is about BAUD,
Right.
and we are opening your eyes, saying there is still more we can do on that. We are only scratching the surface.
How do you, Joseph, how do you find the correlation between EMDR and BAUD?
It's interesting. So I haven't used the BAUD during my EMDR sessions. The one client that I'm using BAUD with has already completed EMDR. Their level of post-traumatic stress has gone way, way down. But this is a person who's just generally, even before their PTSD onset, this was a person who had just lots and lots of anxiety, for a long time. And so I've found that because this is a client who, in addition to doing eye movements, I also have a device that does the bilateral audio ticking going back and forth. It's called a tapper, and they can even hold something in their hand. So in those sessions, when the person had kind of progressed, we had gone not just with eye movements, but even with the sound going back and forth, or the vibrations going back and forth. And we only started the BAUD after the PTSD was pretty much nil. And so she's driving, she's doing everything that she was doing before she was in her car accident. Now we're addressing her underlying obsessive tendencies and generalized anxiety stuff. And we've really just started. I think we've had 2 or 3 sessions with the BAUD. And what I found is that she's done very quickly. She's reported reductions. Okay, but we hadn't targeted any of those things. I tend to only use EMDR with trauma and yes, and anxiety, but I don't use it for other things. I wasn't going to use it for her obsessive compulsive patterns. I wasn't going to use EMDR for other things. I know that there's now EMDR has been validated for other things, but she's done the EMDR work, and now we're doing the BAUD, and she's actually having pretty quick results. So anecdotally, I'm finding it beneficial, but she did well with EMDR, and she's doing well with BAUD so far.
And you mentioned for sleep, it's a different clinical protocol for sleep.
So there's a different protocol for sleep. So the
Yeah.
manufacturer has a protocol for sleep. I have tried it with one client who had zero effect. This is the client who couldn't use it. So I haven't used it.
Sleep, we have another solution. We'll speak another moment. What I want to tell you is in Israel, I am close to a group called Kipolim in Israel. And Kipolim in Israel have a group inside that called Tikva for Olim. And we are helping lone soldiers to try to prevent suicide. And my idea is to make a certain number of BAUD available, and together we will be working to make sure that Joe will follow a study to see what is the result on the lung syndrome. Because that's something we can have directly on PTSD.
You know what you could do is to rent a little booth,
I'm sorry.
to rent a little space
Yes,
downtown Jerusalem,
yes.
that people can come off the street and do board for 20 minutes.
But
Right down. One
But-
step at a time.
but one step at a time.
I think
First,
really, but
Eventually, it may be a great idea, but
a calm booth,
right,
calm booth, they can come and smell the aromatherapy.
aromatherapy,
And
and
board.
BAUD.
And even chat with a therapist for 5 minutes.
with video communication.
No, yeah.
From the booth.
Right, so yeah, that way the person who's in the booth doesn't actually have to be the therapist. They can be,
Right.
again,
I mean, you need funding for this, but
correct. Always need funding.
but this is because I came to this because I think, for example, SSP, people download the application. The limitation of this is that it has to be physically present.
Correct.
So then, if you have a place that there's a marketplace that people
It's a
can
good
plug
idea.
in,
Eden.
So we have some other ideas. And I will say that I know from a colleague of mine in Chicago, who I actually got connected with her because of BAUD, really. And I asked her a bunch of questions, and she's been using BAUD in her clinic for a number of years. She started like me being a skeptic, and she said, well, why not? Let me see if this works. And she's found it helpful with people for pain and sleep. Her mom uses it actually to help with sleep on a nightly basis, or on a daily basis, and she uses it. But to come back to but she told me that there is somebody who had, I think during COVID, he had put together not an adjustable volume in adjustable settings, but he put together a set of the tones that could be heard at it was a set state, and people would do their intervention without having to come to use it because people didn't have access. People couldn't get around. And they found it beneficial as well. So we've been kicking that around as well. So there are lots of ideas out there. Right now, we're just sticking with what we got.
And many people in America are buying both for their home.
Correct.
Because when you have an anxious person in the person, or PTSD person, or an obsessive person, he's not the only one in the family. So the good point is you amortize the item by the number of people in the family.
Correct. So, and I had other ideas as well besides just for family, but again, initially we start with, this is something that we're starting with people coming into the office. Okay. So again, so Ari, people come to you for the training that you're doing with them twice a week, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So this would be 20 more minutes. Okay. Above that, again, same idea, 20 minutes for people who are
Before,
for after, if they're anxious or whatever. Till for people that are new, people are already coming in. If they're coming in again, it's adding one more stop into their day, a few days, 2 or 3 days after they'd seen you, but to provide an additional level of improvement. And they would do this on the day they came to see you. They could do this in the waiting room, either before or after your time with them. But again, this is just we are rolling this out. And again, I'm trying to be very specific with how we're using this according to what was validated. And I'm going to scroll up on the page, and this is where I get a little frustrated from. This is again following the sensitization. Okay, for what we are doing. Okay, we're different. We're not following what I have taken and adjusted from the manufacturer. Okay, where he is really wanting us to have the client focus on what upsets them. Okay. And listen to the tone for the 20 minutes and going until they feel that, and the settings are to when their distress level is down, and then disruptor where it's even fading away, the level of distress. We are not doing that. This is what I hope to do a study looking at this protocol as well from the manufacturer. But what we are really recommending is we identify the problem, we define the problem in the beginning. But what we're really doing is focusing on the positive side to help improve. And this is what the neurologist, what the team in Cuba did, where they stepped away from the protocol, and so now we're using the protocol that they did, was the relaxation with the device.
Oh. The very
Very nice.
important thing is that we don't follow this protocol on the positive image that you want to enhance by the frequency and keep with despite the disruptor. They don't need to keep that image during the process.
Correct.
Only for the dial.
Yeah.
And after
For
that,
finding the frequency.
just relax.
You know, if you're talking in terms of the polyvagal ladder, for example, one of the things you can ask a client is, what would the state of distress want to say to the state of security, and what would your state of security want to say to the state of distress? So there's a dialogue going. That because the state of distress might have something important.
2, 3.
The state of distress might provide a resource as well, in terms of, because it's energy, it's just negative energy. But is there a way that you can harness?
Oh, you stopped. Oh yeah.
So I agree to focus on the positive, but there also is a dialogue that could happen.
But that's where each therapist
It has the
have a different way.
yes.
Right.
I think what is important is that you try the board now and you try the dial on the thing, because you need to get used to the disruptor and you want to take few minutes to see how you feel. So you
Just one question,
ahead.
Abraham and Joseph. After we found the frequencies,
never use.
the base frequency and the disruptor.
Yeah.
You hear me?
I hear you.
And so then after that, we just put it for 20 minutes twice a week. But we spoke a little bit about this, but is there any change? I mean, it's for 4 weeks, the same thing that you found, or you do it again? Sometimes you stop and check again the frequencies, the disruptors.
So again, in the clients that I've been doing, what we've done is we've started with the setting that they had left off with, where they found their best, and then during the session, they're the ones who are holding the device, and they will adjust it if they feel it's that they want to. And again, I have one client who has adjusted it. My other 2 clients have left the settings static. They've left them at the same.
In Cuba,
Yeah,
she
in
was
Cuba
always
that was
same.
Right.
the same. In Cuba it was the same all the time.
That's why I'm telling you,
Yes,
talking about the validation we made in Cuba.
yes, that's important.
Because that protocol is proven to work. Now,
Yeah,
you can improve it. You can develop different technique or add different things in psychology or whatever. We are talking about the baseline, which works, which is that protocol with that machine.
Yeah.
And more is possible. You can improve, but already getting the result we are getting with that protocol and that machine is already unique.
yeah, of course.
I've just switched it on and it sounds like somebody with tinnitus. Does this help with tinnitus?
I haven't
No,
validated.
I'm sure it's gonna be difficult.
So you put on everything on 0.
I started with everything on 0. Yeah.
Off.
Everything's on 0. Put it on. I'm starting with my left ear.
I'm going to plug in my computer.
To plug your computer.
I have to plug it in. Yeah, let's see. We made it pretty well through so far.
The Mac. You're a Mac guy.
I am now. I wasn't always. Honestly, I'm not such a computer person anymore. I'm more of a therapy
So
person.
first, you start level right, level left.
Or either way,
Yeah,
right?
but we are going with a comfort level.
All right.
Right on right, left on left.
Just to make sure that you can know which ears they are. And again, what I would like you to do now is think about some sort of positive experience. Okay. And again, I'll go through like what I do with some of my clients. Like I start with like a pleasant experience. Okay. And again, I'm going to turn it off again, even though I can turn it right back on. Is think about a place where you felt, safe, relaxed, peaceful, or even happy. Okay. And so I don't want to influence anybody with what they want. Okay. So find your image or your experience. And as you think about that image, I'd like you to think about everything that you would see nearby. Imagine looking around that space. Are you indoors or outdoors? What type of lighting is there? Is it natural light? Or is it electrical lighting or candlelight? What colors are present in that place? And as you think about that place and all the things you can see, noticing things even that are further away from you, you can also begin to include the sounds that you'd experience in that place. Are you alone, or do you hear other people, or music, or sounds of nature? And we put in more details, things that are close or further away. They sound different to us. All right, you can hear me okay? Okay. And then we can include also the things that you may smell. And as I'm describing this to you, just so you know, I'm doing the same thing myself. And there might be multiple smells. But things that were in that place, or that you'd like to be in that place. And then you can start imagining what you would touch. From the clothing you're feeling on your body, to identifying whether you're sitting, standing, moving, or laying down in place. The feeling of the sunlight, or air conditioning, or a breeze. Or the things you might be touching with your hands. Your feet. And you can even imagine what you might have to drink or eat in that place. The feeling of the utensils or the glass in your hand. The smell as you bring it close to your mouth, as you inhale from your nose as well. And then the flavor profile. The sensory experience in your mouth as you have that first sip or that first bite. And as you continue to think about that place, what I'd like you to do is turn on your BAUD again. That's fine. And begin to adjust the frequency setting until you find a frequency that seems to kind of go along with or even increase the level of pleasure that you're experiencing. It might strengthen it, or it might bring it to a more visceral feeling in your body, the pleasure or the peacefulness. But move that frequency dial rather slowly until you find one that works for you. And when you found the frequency that seems to be most effective for you, take a few moments to just, again, come back to focusing on your image. And this is what takes the longest time, I think, is finding that setting. And once you find the setting, you can stop adjusting, you can just go back to focusing on it.
Can you, I mean, I'm playing around with the volume a bit as well. Can I do that while I
Absolutely.
do what you want?
Once you find the setting that seems to be best for you, both volume and frequency, come back to your image. And just connecting to the image with the frequency. And then once you found it, part is fairly short, you can either turn the BAUD off, or you can immediately begin to adjust the disruptor frequency a little bit. And just going very slow in slow increments until you find the disruptor setting. That seems to be most associated with an even stronger experience of the pleasure or positive, or at least it doesn't interfere. And you can continue adjusting the disruptor until you find the best setting for you. Always kind of giving it a few seconds, giving it a little time to really determine what setting once you have your ideal settings, this is where you would start your timer for 20 minutes. I can't hear you, Ari. There we
Can you hear
go.
me now?
Yes.
Oh, now I don't hear you. Wait. Same. Maybe I can hear you now. I think.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. So I'm sorry, Joseph. I have to leave. I have a meeting.
That's
So
okay.
we'll be in touch. I mean, thank you so much. Thank you very, very much.
My
It was
pleasure.
very
I hope that you
clear,
find
clarifying.
tool, okay, and we'll be in touch, okay? This again was, this is just the basic training. And the plan is that we'll have at least one-on-one, at least 2, if not 3, 15-minute follow-ups as you start to use this,
Very
okay?
good. Very good. And also, you can tell Abraham I don't see him.
Bye.
Goodbye. Abraham, I didn't see you.
Bye, Ari.
Just
I need an invoice.
say one
I want to pay.
say 1 second, because I have an important info to share.
Wow, but I just can't, Abraham. I'm sorry. I have somebody at 12, and I can't be late. I'm very sorry.
You see my
We'll
screen?
be in touch. I'll call you. I'll call you back in 1 hour and something.
So here's the client, he has to go. All right, I'm sorry that we ran out of time. I hope that you were able to play around with it.
Yeah, no, very good, very good. Thank you very, very much. Okay, all the best. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Nice to meet you, Hillel.
Nice to meet you. Let's stay in touch.
We have on December 20.